going on? I'm Sean Eng, president of the Rotary Club of Harrisburg. We're the number 23rd club in all of the world. We are part of a network of 1.2 million members dedicated to putting service above self. Our members are just like you, passionate about making a difference and beyond. Whether you want to join us for a Rotary luncheon, service on a Monday, or attend an upcoming membership drive, you'll find purpose, connection, and a chance to give back. If you've been working hard and wondering how you can live a more fulfilling life, join us at the Alexander campus for Jewish Life, Mondays at noon, to make an impact today. We'd love to have you. Find out more on our website at hbgrotary.org. See you there.
All right. I've had the good fortune of knowing Luke for about 15 years now, from dating from the first time that I got a chance to work here in Harrisburg when I worked at Team Pennsylvania, and he was at the Corbett administration as the deputy chief of staff. And throughout that time, he's really gained an incredible reservoir of public and private sector leadership. I think those of us who work in nonprofit work know that you need to bring kind of private sector philosophies to public sector challenges as you do this work. And Luke's career has shown an example of doing just that. He brings to his current role over 20 years of experience in business and public policy. Before joining the chamber in 2022, he served as Chief Operations and Technology Officer for the Orrstown Financial Services, Orrstown Bank, and he previously served, as I mentioned, as Deputy Chief of Staff to Governor Tom Corbett. He also has experience working at the federal level as an appointee for then President George W. Bush and as an aide in the United States Senate. He's regularly listed as one of our Commonwealth's most influential people by city and state, and fulfills the Chamber's mission of being the statewide voice of business. During his tenure, the Pennsylvania Chamber has shown significant membership growth, now boasting over 10,000 members from throughout the Commonwealth. Half of the private sector workforce in our state can say that they are Pennsylvania Chamber members. He's also raised the profile of their signature event, the Chamber's annual dinner, the largest gathering of political and business leaders in the state, packs the Hershey Lodge every year, and he's shared the stage with Bradley Cooper, Serena Williams, and then this fall, Shaq. There's a joke in there somewhere about free throws or dunking that we look forward to Luke doing on this stage. Luke's locally a Dickinson College graduate, completed the Duke Leadership Program, and remains active in his community as a board member. And I think to get to know Luke, I remember talking to him shortly after he had the opportunity and started the state chamber. And he said, he talked to the search committee and said, I'll do it as long as I can coach my kids' teams. And they said, yep. And he became the president of the statewide Chamber of Business and Industry. He's a colleague, partner, and friend. So without further ado, Luke Bernstein.
Thanks so much, Ryan, and thank you very much, Scott, to you and the Rotary for having me today. Ryan has been a good friend for a long time, and the Harrisburg Chamber's in great hands. Creedic is in great hands with him at the helm, and we partner a lot on a lot of things. And one of the things that I've offered Ryan our full help is and support on how we change downtown Harrisburg. And for me, I'm not going to talk a lot about that. Happy to take any questions on or talk about it more, but that's a real significant challenge that we have to all come together on. That's not Ryan's challenge and problem alone. That's not the mayor's. That's all of ours. As we think on any type of strength, usually strength starts from the inside out, not usually the outside in. And I think if we let this become a real challenge, it will significantly rob future generations of this area, and we have to fix it. But I will talk about that. Happy to comment on some thoughts in that realm. But it's great to be with you. Give an update from the PA Chamber, talk a little bit about what we're doing, and take some questions. Really want to thank the Rotary, though, in particularly. A lot of your mission aligns very similarly to not only Ryan's chamber, but our chamber as well, in terms of how you view the community, how you view leadership, and how you view the ability to connect people throughout the region and beyond with its large international elements, the Rotary. We have at the chamber, I think in coming in, one of the things that I looked at when I came into the role, and Ryan is exactly right, the very last question I had when Nick Bertram, who is the head of the search committee, I asked him was, can I continue to coach our kids. So the chamber got screwed because they picked me, and the coaches got screwed because they were stuck with me as a coach. So they went 0 for 2 in that situation. But really, I think as I came in, I think like any of you coming into an organization, I was coming into a great strength. PA Chamber was a great organization. I was walking into. How do you come in? I was following up a dear friend who did a great job in the role. And so we really took a step back. And one of the things that has been challenged Pennsylvania for many, many years has been our population decline. And so as we started thinking about that, how do we address that? We've heard brain drain for years and generations. How do we approach this head on? So one of the things that we did was we really took a step back, and I reached out to several of my colleagues in other states, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Ohio, states that had been predominantly beating us on the economic development standpoint, and asked them what did they do to be successful in terms of their growth and their outreach and their strategy. All of them had one thing in common, and that was a statewide strategy for economic development. When I was at the Naval War College, one of my professors there, the very first class, said, if you're planning to go to Florida, you're going to have to know what to pack, right? If you want to get anywhere in the world, it doesn't matter what the destination is, you have to plan on how to get there. And so everything starts with a plan and a strategy. One of the things that those states had was a very comprehensive, not a plan for the chamber, but a strategy and a plan for economic growth and development. And for me, that was my biggest takeaway in talking to them. How do we get a plan that we're all very excited about, but that sets our state up for long time and long-term growth, private sector led. And so at that point, it was 2022, the election for governor had just occurred. Governor Shapiro came in. We met before he came into office and talked about a number of things. And at that point, I said, you really need a strategy for long-term economic development here in Pennsylvania. So for the first time in just about 20 years, he led, and we were very excited that he led a pro-growth strategy for economic competitiveness from the government standpoint. It was missing some components that we felt from a private sector we wanted to add. And so with their support and others, we wanted to have an independent long-term approach with the private sector. And so this year, we led with what we call the Keystone Initiative, which is a private sector roadmap for long-term economic growth and competitiveness. And some of the things I don't think will surprise you is where we stand currently in comparison to other states and where we should be focused into the future. So as we look at it, one of the things that was the basis of this is how the heck do we start growing our population in comparison to other states? So we took a step back and really tried to analyze that. And if we look back 100 years ago, so if you look in the 1920s, I guess probably a good question I could ask is how many know right now how many congressional members Pennsylvania has? 23? 17 is correct. I heard too many, probably right. But in comparison, it's in the Constitution, and 17 is correct. How many do you think we had? It's based on population percentage of the overall U.S. population. Obviously, we get 2 senators, and then your congressional members are based on your population in aggregate and in comparison of other states. How many do you think we had in the 1920 census? We have, how many? 34. 45. We had 36 and 38 total elected. Essentially, when we were Pennsylvania's voting for president, we had 38 electoral votes. Today we have 19. So when you think about it, we have lost population in comparison to the national average every census for the last 10 censuses. So if that trajectory continues, where are we in 100 years from now? So what do we have to do to change a lot of that population? Let me give you 2 other things that should startle you as Pennsylvanians. Number 1, Arizona in the last 20 years has grown as fast as we have in the last 70. North Carolina in the last 20 years has grown as fast as we have in the last 70 years. When you think about that, it's really staggering. We have right now 14 counties in Pennsylvania that are growing at or above the national average the last 4 years. One of those counties, who here's from Western Pennsylvania? Anywhere west of here? Lauren? All right, Western, anywhere. Where are you from?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, okay. Allegheny County, Lauren, Blair County? Blair. So right now, if we're sitting here in Dauphin County, let's say we're in Cumberland County, because we'll go out, there is one county west of Cumberland County that's growing at or above the national average. Every other county is growing at or lower, in this case, lower than the national average. Which when you think about what that means for our state, it's significantly challenging. So that's, I think, our collective challenge. Just like it's not Ryan's challenge as the mayor saying, yep, we're going to dump this off the creek to fix downtown. Take it, right? Not accurate. It's all of our challenge to fix this. So as you think about, you're talking about sports. In sports, and something my dad always said when I was a kid, control what you can control because no one else really cares. Like if you're going to complain about the weather, you grew up in the wrong house. I would hear that all the time. Like if I complained about something in my house that we could not control the outcome, I would my dad would either walk right past me or remind me, nobody cares. Like you can't control it. So adapt. Very similar to business. So what can't we control in Pennsylvania as we think about it? We can't control our proximity, which happens to be incredibly impactful. But if we can't change some of the environment and population, that gets less important. New York is declining rapidly in population. New Jersey, Maryland, those other states have also not kept pace. And the New England states as well have been dying in terms of overall population. So our proximity is not what it once was 100 years ago, but still the best market in the country right now. So that's a huge benefit. The second piece is our energy. We have right now in Pennsylvania, we are the #1 exporter of electricity in the country. When you think about that and you think about our growth, that is our strongest strategic advantage and probably the biggest opportunity we have in the next 5 generations to turn around some of those numbers. The third, in terms of natural gas and specific to energy, we are the second largest producer of natural gas in the country and the third largest producer of energy in the country. Pretty significant with what we have here. We have natural resource in terms of water, would be another one, world-class academic institutions, infrastructure that other states would kill for, while aged, infrastructure in terms of grid capacity and tapping into energy and roads and highways, all significant tailwinds for Pennsylvania. So what don't we have? What have we been challenged with, in my opinion? I think these are the things I would say we can control. And they've been frustrating to watch as a Pennsylvanian. And things that we are really putting forward to try and fix and change. Number one has been our tax climate. We have been incredibly uncompetitive with other states. We currently, in 2022, we had a 9.99 corporate net income tax rate. Does anyone take a guess? Ryan is not allowed to guess because he knows the answer. Where we stood in the country with a 9.9 corporate net income tax rate? 46th, 48, bottom 5. Kind of right, but 46 and 48 were too low. We were 49th. Second highest corporate net income tax rate in the country. And then we had our NOL, so our net operating losses. So if you are, let's say you're at Carnegie Mellon and you're close to Ohio, and this happens all the time, and you're about to start a new business, and you're going to spin off and incubate a tech company out of Carnegie Mellon, and you're going to go, and Pittsburgh might be a good spot for you. If you open your business in Ohio or other states, it is significantly advantageous to do so from a tax perspective. In Pennsylvania, right now, I would say in 2022, our net operating loss carry forward. So if you were going to invest $100, for example, and you were going to lose money for a number of years, you were capped on what you could write off against those potential gains in income at 40%. Does anyone know the federal threshold? What the federal cap is? 80%. 26 other states, 100%. Pennsylvania, 40%. There's only one other state under 80%, and that was New Hampshire, which was essentially tax-free for your first $5 million. So if you were any type of startup business, you were never going to hit that threshold in the first couple of years. And even large companies weren't going to hit that $5 million in net income in the first couple of years. So in Pennsylvania, we were grossly uncompetitive. So what did we do? 2022, we were able to get our corporate net income tax reduced in this state from 9.99 to 4.99, cut in half in 9 years. Why is that significant? Because it's telling companies that they should come and invest. Second thing, net operating losses, we were able to get that cap increase from 40 to 80 in the prospective 4 years, starting this upcoming fiscal year. So in those two moves alone, I recall back to a conversation I had about 2 months into this role, which was the head of Intel's team. Intel picked Columbus to invest $20 billion in their next great chip capacity and chip cloud computing facility right over in Columbus. And I reached out to them. I said, hey, why Columbus? Why not Pennsylvania? And the guy laughed at me. He's like, why Pennsylvania? I said, yeah, why Pennsylvania? He said, you give me a reason why Pennsylvania. Your C&I is 9.99. You have a net operating loss that's embarrassing. He starts going down all the list of things. And so it's kind of like, thank you, got it, challenge accepted. So we've been able, in the 22 budget and last year, work in a bipartisan way to get those two big pieces fixed. He said right out of the gate to me, 9.99 corporate net income tax was just a giant red stop sign, which is why we didn't look at Pennsylvania. That's why we really didn't look at Pennsylvania. So the second piece on top of that tax reform that's been standing in our way, in my opinion, has been permitting and regulatory reform. How many of you have ever had a project delayed through permitting in Pennsylvania? It's virtually everybody. If you were a bank, if you are another institution that works for the builder that's trying to grow here, that has been a real challenge. You know, we could go on all of our apps right now. If lunch didn't get delivered, we could go to our apps and pull them up. I'll take this down here. We go to the apps, pull them up, and look at it and say, all right, I know that lunch wasn't here, but I just ordered 10 pizzas from Domino's. And those 10 pizzas, Joe made them, Sally rang them up, and Frank is delivering them on the way here for $15 per pizza. We see that, it's all baked in. But if you get a $15 million permit in DEP in Pennsylvania, there's no app, there's no online way to check it. It is just a completely unacceptable way to track your progress or lack of progress here in Pennsylvania. And so that's something that we felt has to change. The other standpoint is there's no shot clock to it. It could just sit at DEP. A third component is if we all go to, right now, there is a way for third-party expertise to do things we do every day. How many of you have had to get your oil or car serviced in the last year? Everyone, right? You'd go to the mechanic, you'd go in, they would do a whole workup on your car, and you'd leave with a sticker saying it was inspected. If you rode out of that auto body dealership and you hit the first light and your wheels fell off, that would be a legal issue. There would be a system set in place for that. In Pennsylvania, we're one of the few states, New Jersey allows this, New York allows this, Maryland allows this, that did not allow for third-party expert review of permitting. So in a bipartisan way, we worked last year to change that law, which outsourced all third-party permits for air permits and others, where DEP can rely on an expert, and then DEP would then review the final. So things should move and get faster. It is one small movement in many that we have to do to change the current system. The regulatory environment goes right with that. There are regulatory hurdles and burdens that we could immediately eliminate to make the state more competitive. One of them has been on requirements for licensure. It is not the sexiest requirement to change, but it's really, really important. So a great story I often tell is there was a nurse from a very big hospital system that went through their training, went through their school, got all of their stuff ready to go, was so excited, submitted their application to the state nursing board, and then waited 1 week, turned into a month, turned into 2 months, turned into 3 months. The employer sponsor called the state licensing board head and said, hey, what is going on with this person's application? And they pulled it up and they said, oh, she was missing one piece. It will be declined, but good news, she can reapply and it'll start all over. That is not good news. And so that has changed significantly in the last 2 years. So some of the things that have occurred with that is, number one, the process has been much more streamlined. Pharmacists, for example, waiting 26 days to get licensed. I know we have way too many nurses and pharmacists in Pennsylvania, right? For the last 50 years, it's been hard to recruit a nurse and pharmacist to come to Pennsylvania. So what we've done is that time period has gone from 26 days to 2 days for pharmacists. The nursing and other factors have increased in efficiency. We just joined the state nursing compact, which will allow credentialing to come in from other state. We were one of the few that did not. The other one is on teachers, opt into a state a compact and others. That really expedites. While that does not sound like a big deal, and it should have been done 20 years ago, if you're a teacher and you graduated from Penn State or Millersville or pick the school in Pennsylvania, and you graduate usually in late April, early May, and you apply. This is what happened to my wife. She went to Dickinson College, spent the first couple years in Northern Virginia, got her master's, was teaching in Fairfax County system, and then unfortunately for her, we were getting married, and she was moving up to Pennsylvania. That was a good thing, but she was still stuck with me. So she comes up here. She applies to get her license. She sends it in May. Now, this is probably late April is when she really was late April. So she sends that in. She's a teacher who's taught for many years in the public school system, graduated from a higher education institution in Pennsylvania. She received her student teaching in Pennsylvania. She sent it up. Again, it's probably late April, early May. Heard nothing in May, nothing in June, nothing in July. We're now in August. If you're in August, a school district cannot hire you to start for the new year because unless you have your teaching certificate from Pennsylvania, you can't teach. So that's her example. She applied in April, maybe early May. If you go to that Penn State or anywhere else and you apply and you are a teacher, what do you do in August if you can't teach in Pennsylvania? You might go to New Jersey. You might go to New York. You might go to Maryland. It is the stupidest system possible. So we've been able to change that and open up the compact because finally we need more teachers. And that's been recognizable. So those regulatory burdens that have held us up, I would implore you, let us know where your challenges are because I believe we can fix this. We've made a lot of changes to that. We talk a lot about what the barriers are to workforce, and we'll talk about that as sort of point 4. But the third component I feel we need to change is our energy policy. We are sitting on the greatest gift this state has ever had, which is natural gas. We also have nuclear. We have an abundance of coal. We have abundance of renewables. Right now, power-hungry innovation centers want to come to Pennsylvania. This is destination number 1 right now. Virginia was that destination hub. Has anyone heard of Loudoun County, Ashburn, Virginia, with data centers? It's been, data center alley there has not been without its challenges. So in their land, data centers in Loudoun County, Virginia, you know how much land it takes up in that county alone, percentage-wise? I'm going to throw out a guess. 60%, 3%. It's taking over Loudoun County. It's 3% of its total land. Guess how much tax revenue they pay as a portion to the overall county in Loudoun? 38%. 38%. Almost $900 million in tax revenue from those data centers. We have an incredible opportunity to essentially utilize our energy sources and our innovation hubs to drive the next generation of innovation in Pennsylvania. So if we can get our energy policy correct, EHB reforms, permit reforms, infrastructure straight-lined, we can be part of, I think, driving that next evolution here. And I think the fourth thing we'll come back to energy, but fourth is workforce. Workforce, in my opinion, I often quote the great philosopher Shrek, like ogres are like, they're like onions, they have layers. Fixing the workforce, there's many, many onions. And you think about what the barriers are. So one standpoint, we have barriers to enter and re-enter the workforce. Ryan, I talk about childcare. If the state budget right now would spend $500 million more in childcare, anyone in childcare, anyone here, childcare sector, I would guarantee you would probably guarantee me, Ryan, we'd be back in 5 years asking for more money. There are systemic challenges within our childcare system that we have an opportunity to fix, and we should do that. For example, right now, if you were in a childcare facility and you were there and your child was one age, let's say your child was 14. On the other side of the basketball court, mid-court, your child's 6. If you do not have a firm structure, one group has to go. Like, how is that possible right now in Pennsylvania? So one local YMCA, and Ys have been a great source of childcare for many, many years. One YMCA had an inspector come up from Department of Labor and Department of Health and Human Services. They reviewed all of the various requirements there, and they said, you do not have a freestanding structure. They said, you cite us last time for that, which is why we put up this net. Like, you can't go, it's a net that extends, it was thousands and thousands of dollars. They said, yeah, it's not a freestanding structure. You got to kick one of these groups out. That is the dumbest thing, and we're standing there, and what is that going to do to childcare? So the regulatory reform piece comes. Other pieces like criminal justice reform. Those that are coming out of prison right now are 66 to 67% chance likely they're going back. That's what the percentage is. The ones that are out has a 24% unemployment rate. So how can we work through different challenges to help those who want to work get back into the workforce? Those are things I think we have to think differently about. Transportation, for example, huge barrier for those coming out of prison. You might not have had a vehicular issue, but your license is immediately gone when you go in to an inside facility. So those are things that we've come up with solutions with. All of this, we came up with solutions through our Keystone Initiative to try and address and meet the current demand and moving forward. Going back to energy, and I would say moving into sort of the future, I really view all of these things are things that we can control. So the tax climate, we've been able to work on and get down. The permitting problem, we've made some great headway. Regulatory reform, we're making headway. We need your support in terms of what other areas are out there. We only found out about some of the childcare pieces. Another good childcare piece is if you're 17 and you're interested in working in childcare and you go and you audit a childcare facility for the day, that increases the provider's ratio that's a person in childcare. So they either have to send someone home or they have to take one less person to do that. That's a real thing. It doesn't make sense. If you're a parent, guess how much experience counts for you to work in a childcare facility if you're a parent? Should it not? I don't know, but we should have that debate and discussion. It works in other states. I think those are the types of things that we have to think about when we hear transportation, mass transit. How can we open up areas for those who want to work, get affordable, accessible ways to work? So those are some of the big issues that we have found that have really been holding our state back. We've tried to put forward solutions in all of those areas to address some of the challenges. By no means, that's an exhaustive list. So our Keystone Initiative put forward 100 recommendations of things. 100 recommendations means essentially we have no priorities. So we identified 7 target ones, and then we prioritize those as ones to go after. But as you think about this, and we'll open up for questions, last month, Senator McCormick launched an Energy and Innovation Institute in Pittsburgh. And you think about why Pittsburgh and why here? The next great wave of innovation can happen in Pennsylvania. It absolutely can and should. Prior to that, earlier this year at Homer City, they announced last year in Indiana County, Homer City, they announced the closure of a coal-fired power plant. Earlier this year, they announced the retrofitting and transition of that plant to go from coal-fired to natural gas-fired. It was at that time the largest private sector investment announcement in Pennsylvania history when that was announced in April. Okay, so that was just over $10 billion. Fast forward to June when we announced the Amazon Web Services Talon AI cloud computing facility data center that was going to be announced in Berwick, Pennsylvania, of $20 billion in a private sector investment in Pennsylvania, which will make Berwick compete with Beijing and Silicon Valley, which is wild to think about if you know where that area is. I grew up 10 miles from there. There is nothing up there. It's wild to think about that is going to be the interface and a competitive drive for the next wave of innovation in the world. So we had a record standing of investment for about a month. Then this was announced. Then just after, we had $92 billion announced in investments in Pennsylvania this July in one day, just about 2 weeks ago. So you think about why that investment, all these companies are saying the same thing. It's your energy. It's your energy. And the remarkable part is it's not just in Pittsburgh. The big facility, are we on or off the record here? I can share this off the record. When we started this year, I'd signed 2 NDAs for data centers, everything. This last week, I signed my 26th. We are going to be the next great state of innovation, as I tell our team, if we don't F it up. But we have the energy, we have all the other pieces in place. The big areas are going to be getting our climate right from a business standpoint and getting our workforce right. There is a huge, huge challenge that comes with workforce. So when you think about the build out of these facilities, I'm not worried about the engineers. I'm not worried about the computer scientists. I'm not worried about some of those other pieces. We have an engineering summit in September for the first time in Pennsylvania. We had an aerospace summit in May to talk about that. I think we're working together very collaboratively in that. I worry about the trades. The next great millionaires class in America is going to be the building trades. It's your electricians, it's your plumbers, it's your carpenters, and we just do not have enough of them. So we are about to announce a partnership with College Board. The PA Chamber will be one of the first states to do this, that we've endorsed their personal finance for AP class, which for the first time puts AP students with AP college track with AP career technical students together. That's not happened. AP has been college track. This opens that up. There's another AP course they're about to launch that will do the same thing, and will get people from the career technical side over into that track. I think it helps reduce some of the stigma, but also really puts value where it should be, and that's on all students that want to come out and contribute. So to me, we have incredible opportunities. We just have to get it right. And so we have a very limited window, in my opinion, to do that. Final point on energy. Who remembers when it was really cold in January? Remember, it was just freezing out. We were operating at that point with a plus 12,000 gigawatts back to the grid in Pennsylvania. We're on a consortium. No one ever heard of PJM until a couple of months ago, and the governor kind of got in a fight with PJM. Now everyone's heard of it. We were sending a net 12,000 gigawatts back to the grid. At that same time, West Virginia was sending about 6,000 exporting back to the grid, which we are the largest exporter in the world of electricity. Ohio, Virginia, New York, Maryland, New Jersey were all negative, which meant if we were not in part of PJM, and if we in West Virginia were not part of PJM, every one of those states would have been completely dark, completely blacked out. Because of Pennsylvania, we had enough power and energy to keep New York, Maryland, Virginia, and DC's lights on. These data centers could be large ones, 1 gigawatt. Some, if it's a multi-complex, could be 4, which is the equivalent of 4 million homes and small businesses. That's how much power they require right now. So at the current pace of energy, last year, to meet current demand, take out the data centers, projecting at 10 years, we need about 10,000 miles of pipeline annually in the country. We did 700. So as we think about it, why Pennsylvania is so important, right, the precipice, it's because of the on-meter and on-grid opportunities and off-grid power. Sub-nuclear stations being built in Western Pennsylvania, nuclear facilities like 3 Mile Island, Talon, and others being reactivated, natural gas facilities that are going up virtually overnight. Lancaster had a facility just announced, data center. You're going to hear one pretty soon right next to it. We've obviously talked about the Microsoft ones here, Berwick, Wyalusing, Northern with Renovo, Indiana, a ton out west. They're just going to continue to grow if we can do this, which will really drive population. So I might have started on a sober note. I hope we're ending on a good note, but I really believe we have great opportunities. This is the first time in my lifetime I look forward and see a positive population opportunity for our state if we can take advantage of it. So with that, Scott, happy to take any questions that you have.
You know, when my son was in high school, he had a good buddy who went to Votech, and his parents both had the GI Bill, so they were like, look, you can go to any college you want to go. And this kid had an engineering mind. He's like, I don't want to go to college. He goes, I like working with my hands. And he ended up being a diesel mechanic. The kid's making a fortune. He owns actually like 6 rental properties. He's the same age as my kid, who probably equates to the debt that my son is in for college. How, and I know when I was at the chamber, the state chamber, we talked about this, and it's the ongoing issue of how do we get the right information to educators, to parents, so when they're encouraging and looking at their kids' capabilities and looking at what's out there, that they want to go into a trade as an alternative. No debt going into it, right? It's a phenomenon. And with these opportunities, we have to have that conversation, because we can have all the jobs we want in these sectors, but without skilled tradesmen and women, we're going to be pulling from other states, which is great. That grows the population, but let's keep our homegrown ones here too. And I'm not sure, Luke, what the answer is there, because it's an age-old, shift and mindset that we have to really make that transition. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
It's a great question. One of the partnerships we launched, and statistically, that's really what a lot of the data shows. Kids, parents, my brother's a great example. Didn't have my parents. My parents were heroes, so I'm not trying to be critical of them, but they forced my brother to go to college. He did not want to go to college. He had no business going to college. It did work out because he married his wife, who's like way above his place in life, but they forced him to go. When they forced him to go and he eventually graduated and came out, he should have gone into the trade. He's done incredibly well. He's very successful now, but that was a lot of the mentality. I do see that with the cost of higher ed increasing, and with some of the, I think, challenges where we have, for the first time, a really good dialogue with higher ed, because I think as businesses, we're saying to many of our higher ed partners, we're the consumer of the product. The product is not what we want. Something has to change, and enrollment has gone down. So one of the things we did last year was we piloted this in Pittsburgh, and we just finished our 2nd year, and I would love to do this statewide. So if you'd like to make Harrisburg the next one, we can do it. We did a signing day, and we brought the 7 career technical centers and schools from Southwestern Pennsylvania to the Pittsburgh Pirates game. And we highlighted all of them and the different careers they were starting. I understand that playing Division III volleyball is a big thing. It's great. You worked your tail off, you should go. That's no less or more important than someone that's going to go be a mechanic. But one in our society right now is applauded and encouraged, and the other is looked down upon. That shouldn't happen. And so we brought them to the Pirates game, and we had the Pirates and others say, this is amazing. We highlighted all of them, and we had a huge turnout reception. So we've been doing that as part of it. I think policy, the apprenticeship ratio has to change. Right now, you can, in Pennsylvania, we are not competitive. Talk about regulatory. If you are a union shop or others, you have to have 4 journeymen for every 1 apprentice. So you can only bring in 1 for every 4. What's the average age of a journeyman right now? Pushing 60. So there aren't enough of them. We have to expand that pool. And so that's a key component that even with the building trades are saying, we can't let New Jersey, Maryland, Ohio workers build Pennsylvania's economic future. We have to use in-house labor, and there's just no way to get them as fast. I view that as an opportunity to fix as well. There are about another 10 or 11 key reforms that we could do that open that pool up. But I do think it comes back to education. We have to start educating and communicating the importance of that job, the importance of people in our society, and what their contributions are, because without it, people don't feel that value, and they should, because it's one of the most important things people can do.
Thank you. That's great what you did. Thanks.
John?
All right, I was gonna say, so I went to a vocational school for high school, and I would say a lot of my class members, even ones that were fantastic what they did, they were pushed to go to a traditional college, which really surprised me going to a vocational school. So part of these conversations with higher ed, are you also talking to the trade schools? Because I went to Dauphin County VoTech. I know folks that went to Cumberland Perry that were kind of pushed the same direction. So are they part of that conversation as well?
They are, and that's a real critical component, because a lot of guidance counselors at CTCs will still send. One of the areas we have to open up seats at Penn College and Thaddeus Stevens and other trade schools that are the next step after K through 12. Right now, we just talked to the president of Thaddeus Stevens. How many job offers do you think the average Thaddeus Stevens student gets upon graduation?
25.
You're a little high.
So high.
22.
Too.
Penn College, 11. And that was last year's numbers. It's off the charts.
I read Penn College saying they didn't have enough kids for the jobs that were coming in. They said they can't produce them fast enough.
Yep.
There's a program, Ryan Unger has a program called the Cradle to Career Alliance through the Harrisburg Chamber. Are there similar programs that are being maybe mimicked throughout the state have you guys talked about that, I would think, or?
Yeah, it's a big part of the Keystone Initiative, because amazingly, there's a lot of money being spent in Pennsylvania on workforce development and apprenticeships, but it's not streamlined. It's much more regional. We're a very regional state, right? As we sit here, if I asked all of you independently and individually where you're from, someone might say Harrisburg, someone might say Lancaster, Hershey, Carlisle. If we were in Pittsburgh and I drove an hour in each direction, I said, where's everyone from? They'd say Pittsburgh.
Mhm.
So parochialism is alive and well in different parts of Pennsylvania for different reasons. But we are a state that has different types of regional strengths that we need to think about in that plan. But in my opinion, I think we could be spending overall those monies more effectively and streamlined for programs that actually work like that, and putting it together. We talked about the mechanics, like the diesel mechanics. Our aerospace day, there was a number one need. It wasn't the astrophysicists. It was airplane mechanics who make on average, anyone take a guess what the average airplane mechanic makes on a jet?
150.
152, both light,
Wow. 300.
light, $350,000 to $400,000 a year for a veteran average salary for a jet mechanic. Who wants to be a jet mechanic? But when you think about, yeah. Pilots, average salary, 300,000.
250.
And so when you think about some of these statistics as where the need are, both of them you do not need a college degree for. Both of them, they will take you right out of high school and give you an apprenticeship. So we need to do a better job collectively as a business community chamber to educate people on these careers. In my opinion, that's an area we really have to do a more effective job. We launched 2 weeks ago the Pennsylvania Energy and Innovation Institute. It's going to be the first statewide institute underneath the U.S. Chamber Global Energy Institute and an umbrella, all geared at this because workforce is there. And so we're partnering with a lot of different organizations on the workforce front.
It's my assumption that since the PA Chamber is pro PA, pro jobs, and it even states on your website that you endorse pro jobs, pro growth candidates who believe in business's right to compete on an equal basis in the world and marketplace. But I noticed on your economic competitive leadership council, there are 4 methane pipeline reputation for coming into Pennsylvania, doing their construction, their jobs, drilling, creating pipelines, and then all those jobs leave. And they leave us with mounting regulations. So I'm curious, there's 0 businesses in the renewables, and there's just many Pennsylvania renewable businesses that have many job opportunities. In fact, in light of how Texas works, these jobs stay here, and it would be more than the whole, I would say, carbon industry combined. So my question is, what criteria does the chamber use into selecting their leadership?
So you're saying from a board standpoint, I don't know which companies you're.
You have 4 companies on your leadership council that are tech.
Which leadership council?
It's the Economic Competitive Leadership Council. It's on your website.
Okay. Yep.
And I went through it, and there's 4.
So, yep.
And in light of their past reputation, and I happen to know that there's many renewable companies begging to have somebody represent them on the Hill, because I was the former chair of Penn Future. So I had that knowledge, and you can't find anybody to lobby for them because they're all on retainers with Marcellus Shale companies.
Well, I'd say a couple things. I appreciate the question. I would say number one, we do have a lot of renewable companies that are members of the chamber. Number two, renewables and traditional fossil fuels, natural gas, nuclear, we will not meet current pace of energy needs now. We just need more of everything. And that's to keep our economy going. That's where we are. I think from a renewable standpoint, I think it's a big part of the discussion. The reality right now is, in my opinion, we can't fuel a full-time economy on part-time energy. And when you're looking at with different renewables, I can't have, if it's sunny 14 hours a day, 16 hours a day, I need consistent sources. The other factor is we're in a global competitive environment with China and others who are building a new coal-fired power plant a week, 1 per week in China. And so how as we in America, how can we lower our emissions the most expeditious way? In my opinion, it's natural gas right now. Why have we led from Pennsylvania? You know this from time of Penn Future, our emissions have driven down in Pennsylvania. Why? Because of natural gas. And so if we're going to meet some of the AI demands in this country or in Pennsylvania, have the opportunity to grow, we have to do it through some of those channels. I would say if other companies want to take part in our organization, that's a great thing. We have 10,000 members. We need more. I often tell organizations if they can only afford 1 membership, join Ryan's chamber. Right? If you can afford one, join Ryan's. He does a great job. They do a great job. If you can afford two, join ours after his, or other local chambers. We are only, I think, going to move this collectively together by working in partnership with one another. We have a great relationship with a lot of solar and other folks, and they've, I think, been helpful and part of the solution. You know, for many years, we've incorporated, I think getting the common sense approach to this done right is really important too. We've imported a lot of glass and solar panels from China that were fueled for solar panel expansion. We should be making those in America, in my opinion.
In Pennsylvania.
We should be making those right here in Pennsylvania. Vici Architectural Glass, MI. Other places have the capacity to do that. We should not be doing that in China and getting sources. A local company here had to import that glass for their solar farm in Germany because there's none in America, and they wouldn't do it in China, which moving in the right direction, but not over where we want to be. I think the other piece to that is there is many, as you're thinking about some of the different opportunities, no one industry should be advancing at the expense of the other, in my opinion. I think we need to be pushing forward a smart regulatory environment that protects our environment while allowing all these companies to grow.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you very much. I do have, we do have this paperweight, the 4-weight test. Like to give it to you if you wouldn't mind staying for a picture afterwards. I know we're running a little late, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Go forward and serve. Have a great rest of the week, guys.